So, hi, everybody. Oh, hi. Yay. So my apologies. They changed the password and Melanie, anyway, I just reached Melanie to get the new password. Are you all hearing me?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. And Laurie, I was about to respond to your text, but I guess I don't need to because now we know where we know where we all are. So let me get my notebook open. Hang on a sec. So thank you all for your perseverance, because I know it's annoying for all of us to, to have a meeting and have it not start on time. So anyway, I got the password. I was able to start Zoom and we're together. Let me just get my notebook out. 23. I know we have John. And I appreciate John. Appreciate you joining. We have James. Appreciate everybody joining, actually. We have Iris. Yay. Welcome, Iris. And Rob. Okay. So we have, and I have to keep an eye on whether or not anybody else tries to join. So where we left off, and so we have kind of 4 members, and I'm a screen sharer, as people know. So I do plan to. I need to get the there we go. Alrighty. I'm just checking to see who we have. We do have James. We don't have Wendy. So some people may, people kind of give up, and I get it. So we don't have the full set of people. So we do have James. We do have Laurie. We do have Robert. We don't have Chris or Linda or Connor, but these are really work sessions anyway. So even though we don't have a, we have enough people that we can get going. I appreciate, I kind of treat everybody. I kind of treat everybody as a member, even though I know that John is not officially a member. Iris, I see you're here. You're not officially a member. I'm interested in what everybody has to say. We're trying to, the goal is to take what the sign law is and address issues that people have had with the current sign law and adjust it to something that works for Woodstock. So that's really the goal. And at this point in time, if we reach a point where it's like, oh, too many people are talking, we have too many extra people, I may say, well, we have to keep it to just the core team. But I appreciate anything that John has to say. I appreciate everything, Iris, that you have to say. Even though you're not on my original list of who's on the sign committee, we're all just trying to make Woodstock better. And I'm totally fine with people sharing as we go along. So Iris, I think that you probably, since you haven't been on the calls before, I haven't sent you the document we're working on. John does have it because he's been on calls before. Everybody else should have it. The last thing I sent out, and let me get out of this because we're on. So I had sent, and I'm pulling it up here. On July 11th, was the last time that I sent an update, because there's a document we're working on, and Iris, if you'd like, I will send it to you. Let me go. There we go. So Iris, did you want me to send you the document? Because I'll bring it up on the screen. I'll do a screen sharing, but if you want to have a copy of it, I'm happy to share it. And you're on mute now. Yeah, there's something with a problem with your audio, because you're on, because when you're not on mute and you talk, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Yay.
Okay. Yeah, please send.
and also screen share it because I'm not logged on at the moment to start looking at it.
Yeah, okay. And Iris, if you could share your ID, I don't know if I have your ID.
Well, yeah, you can send it to, well, yes, you do. I've sent you a million things.
Well, you probably have, but it'll be quickest if you just give it to me, so I don't have to look for a million things.
IDY67@yahoo.com.
So,
I also just want to mention that I wrote a letter to the entire town board and I read it at the meeting. So you have my letter. It's about signs. And it was the week that you could not make it at the town board meeting. I was sorry that that was the week I picked because you weren't there. I didn't know that.
right.
So whenever that was, 2-3 weeks ago, I can't remember exactly when, you know which town board meeting. So I had sent that email, I believe the day before the meeting. So
Yes.
the Monday before that meeting.
Okay, so I was on a vacation and I was gone actually for 3.5 weeks, and I got back late Sunday and I spent yesterday going through mail, paying bills. And so I did not, I'm just ramping back up again to town of Woodstock stuff. So
Right.
I did not see it. And it was a hell of a nice vacation, if I do say so myself. We went for a wedding in Florida, drove to Florida. It was a wedding week anyway. So it was a family thing, and it is what it is. So I am just revving back up now
Right.
on stuff. So I did not read your letter, nor was I, and that was the reason I was not at the meeting.
Okay, all right. So now you know it was the day before, so you can look for that date or my name and you'll see it.
Yeah, okay. All righty. So okay. So I just forwarded you. I know you just said that you're not able to see it. So I want to kind of recap where we are. I'm going to share my screen, and let me first pull up so that when I do share. There we go. There we go. All righty. So so the document that I've been, the way I've been handling this focus of signs, and I'm ignoring that, that's myself. I'm going to wait till it goes away though. And it's going to make a little more noise and then I'll stop. There we go. There we go. It's gone. Okay. So the document that I have, and as I say, cumulative meeting notes, and then I had the meeting notes as of our last meeting, but then there were some things happened since then that I put in green. So the way, and just Iris, so that you know, because you're new here, that what I have in the document is, here's who are all the, here's who's been attending, here's in the committee, but then we've had some other guests, and then there's some reference documents, and then there's topics we've been discussing. So what I put at the beginning, and I'm going to, after this meeting, I'll try to rework this document a little more clearly to say that the things up here are the decisions that, and the direction that we've been considering, to say this is the more, the more, where we're going part of the document. The other part is more of a brainstorming part, because there are different topics we want to discuss. And as we kind of make decisions as a committee, I'll put these information up here, and then down below the next steps, this is where we began, is, well, what are we going to do? Reach out to the chamber, with which James had done some of that. What are brainstorming? My meeting notes of what we've discussed, I've put in here, but the step is decisions that we're making. So the basic steps are reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, discuss the different things we want to talk about. The first one being sandwich boards. Other things that we're going to be discussing are, sorry, the other things we're discussing is up here. This is why I want to rework it. We want to talk about business districts. These are some of the things in our first meeting we talked about. should the sign law be different for business district versus non-business district? We want to talk about the size of a building because there's a 10 square foot maximum for a sign. But if Colony wants to do Colony on the side, or the Bearsville Theater has a big picture of a bear, if something's on the side of a building, are we worried about the 10 square foot minimum? So that's a topic we didn't really get to yet. But see, there's some of the topics in the first meeting we talked about that we want to do. We want to talk about commercial signs stuck on the side of the road, Memorial Day, Labor Day, there's the CD sale signs. We want to be talking about, do we want to have a law? Do we want to allow it? Do we want to not allow it? We talked on the first meeting about if you have a business on an upper floor or an alleyway, what's the best way to let people know that your business is there? Because the signs, as with everything in Woodstock, we have a lot of competing, I'll say, but we have a lot of different priorities of different people. This person has one priority, that person has another priority, and they can conflict. So how do we make the best decision for Woodstock? And like the sandwich boards is a great case in point. Historically, we've had a law in Woodstock that says no sandwich boards. Well, what I've learned after our last meeting was actually that doesn't come into play for things like governmental things going on, like the voting. Well, we don't have to say we allow a sandwich board saying polling place here for the community center, because that's a governmental thing, and that does not have to comply with what the law says. So that's a sandwich board. It always makes sense to have it anyway, but barring governmental reasons for sandwich boards, we've always, the law for what, 50 years now, whatever the number, 30 years, the law has said no sandwich boards. Well, okay, but is that working? For the business owners, we do care about the business owners. We also care about the character of Woodstock. We also care about safety. We care about a lot of things. So we need to consider a lot of things as we make these decisions. But the whole reason we have a committee going on is because the current law isn't serving everybody in the best. People are saying, hey, we really ought to look at a change. So in any event, so these are the things we're going to be talking about. And if there's a home business, are we alter signs for there? Lawyer can place their placard on a mailbox, Airbnb, special events such as there's an art show. We wanted to talk in our first meeting, we said we want to kind of talk about all of these things, about what should our sign law say, and we want to say, what does it say? We also talked about maps of streets and businesses, but that's really a Chamber of Commerce item, not really our sign committee purview. But in any event, it was an idea somebody said, so I listed it, even though I made it clear it's not our purview. So the steps we were going to choose here: reach out to the Chamber of Commerce, which James has already done, discuss ideas like the sandwich boards. We'll discuss other things on this list here, and then discuss the other things. We discussed sandwich boards. What are the other things we want to talk about? We want to do a line-by-line review of the current law. The idea is, first we'll talk about what are the things we want to make sure our updated sign law does. That's the discussion area. And then once we've completed those discussions, which we've only talked about sandwich boards so far, once we've completed that, then we're going to do a line-by-line review of the Woodstock sign law, and we'll update it based on making it match what we think it should look like. And then there's also some state guidance that Chris Compton has sent to us, final review of our proposed law, and then present it to the town board. So the basic steps are, first we discuss what is and is not working with the current sign law. Then we do a line-by-line review of the sign law with updates to make it a proposed law match what we said we've agreed it should look like. And then we proceed from there to present it to the town board. So, do some more reviews, tidy it up, and then propose it to the town board. So that's basically an overview and a recap of where we were. So what I want to do now is, the last meeting we had was, well, I've got it right here. I've also listed meetings. So we met on Monday, July 10th. And that's what the notes are from. But then some things transpired since then that I put in green. And when I do the next notes, everything will wind up being black and today will be in blue. So that's my plan. So what's transpired since then, what this committee thought, and I know that John had different thoughts, and Iris, I think you probably do too, but again, I'm listening to everybody. So here's where we were, and I want to review what transpired since this committee met last. So when this committee discussed sandwich boards, this committee was thinking that yes, we actually would want to propose to the town board that we do allow sandwich boards in certain instances. We want safety to be safety first. We don't want people just leaving sandwich boards out there. But one of the things that businesses have said is, especially in the off season, they're open and nobody knows, and they'd like to be able to have a sandwich board. And there was also some discussions that we want to keep on the main thoroughfare, keep the sandwich boards off of the sidewalk. But if you have a grassy area or a stoop, that's not the sidewalk, so it's not a safety hazard, then yes, it can help the business. It's people put them up, they take them down at the end of the day. Those are some of the discussions. So again, I'm open to everybody's opinions, and we want to factor in what everybody thinks as we get a law that hopefully solves problems people are having, but also does it in a way that people are comfortable that it's right for Woodstock. So anyway, we talked before about perhaps there being a temporary moratorium. I talked with Supervisor McKenna about a temporary moratorium. A moratorium is in fact a law. It would take some months to make it happen because it would be a law. So the alternative really is to say, well, let's right now, what Bill has had a conversation with Butch is, if there's a safety hazard with a sandwich board, fix the safety hazard, don't allow that. But let's let this committee come forth with some proposals and some recommendations. And if a sandwich board is not a safety hazard, let it be out there. So I don't know how people feel about that, because now people are going to say, well, you're not enforcing the current law. Well, the whole point is we have this committee because we want to change the current law. And in this interim period, rather than an official moratorium, having it be saying, keep everybody safe, but use some judgment about whether or not you're making somebody pick up their sandwich board. I don't know what people think about that, but that is what my understanding of what's happening right now. So we had said before, prohibit sidewalks. Well, actually what was said was prohibit sidewalks on Tinker Street, Mill Hill Road, and Rock City Road sidewalks. And that I put prohibit on sidewalks everywhere, but it was clarified to me later that's not actually what was said. It was the meeting, which is why I removed it. So prohibit on sidewalks, including Tinker Street, Mill Hill Road, and Rock City Road. So we're saying we still do want to prohibit sandwich boards on the sidewalk itself. We do believe it's okay to allow it on lawns, courtyards, but not encroaching the 48-inch sidewalk near its state DOT minimum. So do allow it. You still need the 48 inches, but okay on lawns, courtyards, stoops, and in parking lots. I'm reviewing this, and if anybody says, oh, wait, no, now we've thought about this for a few weeks, and no, we want to change this, even if you were part of the meeting on July 10th and agreed to it, then it's okay. This is a living document. We want to incubate things, and if after thinking about things for a while we want to change it, we can do that. It's not, nothing's cast in concrete. But this is where we are so far. Maximum of 1 per business and only on the premise of that business. The exception is government entities are exempt from the sign law. In other words, the voting today sandwich boards didn't need to follow the sign law. We don't need to say that's okay, because it already is okay. But we want to have a maximum of 1 per business and only on the premise of that business. Only allow when the business is open, remove the sign when closed for the day. Only allow this moratorium if the town lawyer agrees we're not causing safety. And I would actually change that to say only approve this, and it's not a moratorium. So I'm going to get rid of that. where are we? Font, straight through. I was ready that. I'll fix this in a second. Oops, no, that was right. Okay, I'm just putting this in green. Okay, only approve this law update if the town law agrees we're not causing safety or liability issues. What we had said was the sandwich board maximum area 10 square feet wide, could be as high as 48 inches, could be as wide as 36 inches. The maximum footprint on the ground would be 36 by 36. No trip hazard placement or placement that forces a pedestrian to have to go into the road to walk around the sign. Pedestrian safety is the focus and priority. The sign committee is still in discussion regarding sandwich boards. This temporary plan is a test case and could be adjusted. So in fact, it wouldn't be a moratorium, but this is where we were with signs. So I've made some updates since we all as the committee looked at it the last time, that's what we are thinking, that we, that's where we are right now. Anybody on the call is welcome to, and I also want to say, you know, John, I know John was on the last call and then he didn't speak up on the last call, and he did speak up at the public comment during the town board meeting. And I said, what are you doing? I asked you what you thought. I asked you what you thought and you didn't tell me. So in any event, and as somebody pointed out to me later, hey, it's public comment. You can say whatever you want at public comment, and that's totally true. So, so that being said, next time John chooses to speak up a public comment, I won't say, what are you doing? But in any event, I do appreciate, because as we try to merge this together, I really am trying to get everybody's input as soon as you have input, because then I can make this document match what the group is thinking faster. So that is my hope. But yes, clearly public comment at a town board meeting, clearly it's your 2 minutes, you can do whatever you want. So anyway, all that being said, anybody, oh, I see Lori's hand is raised.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Laura, for the recap. One of the things I've been thinking about that we could include is and this should go without saying, but that there be equal enforcement and not selective enforcement.
Right.
Right now, we have some issues of selective enforcement going on in town. They're not governmental agencies, you know, that sort of thing. So I think that is, you know, I mean, it's common sense, but I think it is an important point to add.
Well, so my question is, I agree it's important to do. I wonder if should the law, it may be odd to say something like equal enforcement and put that right in the law. The hope is once we get a law that is right, quote unquote, that it will be equally enforced. But I think it's a good, I'll add it to a goal. It probably wouldn't go into the law words, but
Right.
But I agree with what you're saying. And
Right.
I'm gonna,
okay.
I'm gonna, so I will
and you're right. I mean, it shouldn't have to be mentioned in a law that the law will be enforced, but I just wanted to raise the point. So thank you.
Yeah, and I'll go ahead and put it here because and I'm going to put it in red, not because it's red, not because it's bad, but because I'm just trying to color code, because everything that's blue and green is going to go to black, and what you see in red is going to go to blue, because that'll be the new stuff. So that's just my color coding for the moment. Yes, so it's totally true. So it's okay to, because right here we're saying what our goals are, including how we're going to change the law. But yes, when we get into the law update, but thank you, and thank you for that, because we want to get away from selective enforcement for sure.
Right.
Totally. So based on what I recapped for the signs, does anybody have any? So these are our goals. Again, so the recap for the sign is, and again, it's not going to be a moratorium, but this is what we're thinking of actually proposing goes into the law, that we prohibit on Tinker Street, Mill Hill Road, and Rock City Road. Well, and John, this is a question for you, John James Conrad, sorry, which your hand is up. well, why don't you go first, James, and then I'll ask you.
Okay, I just wanted to I wanted to revisit, since a lot of this stuff came out of what we were talking about for what we could sort of do in the moratorium time.
Right.
Things are sort of getting kind of written out now. So I just want to make sure, I wanted to clarify one thing that I feel a little strongly about, and I know businesses do. The off season. I think this is kind of a critical area of the sign law. And I think that, you know, I know that Woodstock has had a great improvement in business in the last few years, but
Mhm.
the off season is still the off season. And as
Right.
one of the only businesses open every day of the week, I struggle just to figure out which restaurants are open on a daily basis to send customers to when they're begging to know where to go.
Right.
And
Mhm.
there's a value to empty sidewalks, even Tinker Street, that have a very simple sandwich board that says, you know, brunch specials today, you know, and it stops your car, it makes people look down a street and see it. It's very valuable. And I know that, you know, some off seasons are busier than others, but overall, once the kids are back in school, you know, Labor Day to Memorial Day ish, you know, Monday through Friday are tough. You know, and so I was just wondering if there's I mean, I know that this is going to be a thing that everybody's going to have opinions on, but
Mhm.
I would like to just get it in there that there is that need for business owners to explore that possibility of a non-holiday weekday in the off season, having a break on being able to say, hey, we're open.
Yeah. Well, and you raised a good point. We originally made these rules for what the moratorium would be, but it appears we're not going to have a moratorium. So
I mean, if we're throwing the ideas all out there to have on one sheet, that's definitely something that was missing, because I didn't realize.
yeah. So if we think of this as being, here's what we want to, and again, step one is decide what we want the updated law to look like, and step two is to update the law. So this is what we want it to look like. And that being the case, you raised a really good point. This is what we're going to make the moratorium look like. But now I'm asking, what do we want the law to look like? So Rob, you had your hand up. Did you want to weigh in on something before we kind of, because I want to re-go through all of these words, and then I want to make it what we want the law to look like.
Yeah,
So,
and I want to speak also when you get a chance.
yeah. Okay. So Rob, I did see your hand up. So did you want to say something?
No, I'm going to wait. I had something on my mind, but it wasn't related to this.
Okay. So Iris, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. As an avid and very frequent walker in town,
Mhm.
and I was a street vendor as well for many years, right in the heart of Woodstock, not in the flea market, it was right on Tinker Street. So this is my perspective. The sandwich boards, to me, are total eyesore. And when you allow it, then everybody's going to do it. And you get into sign pollution. And it's been a kind of a pleasure walking by. Maria's is out of business now, and they would have not just the sandwich board, but all along this fence, about 4 signs. They had about 7 signs all next to each other.
Mhm.
And 2 neon signs inside the store.
Mhm.
I think they were kind of the worst offender that I've seen, and it's been a pleasure not seeing it.
Right.
Sorry they had to go out of business, but all those signs obviously didn't help them for whatever reason. I don't know their reasoning, but those signs didn't really help. And being a vendor on the street, I have seen people who on Tinker Mill Hill, they're not really looking right now. You can't tell because the signs aren't out, the sandwich boards, but they were out for many years and I had witnessed it. they're not looking at those signs. What they're doing is they're wandering around, they're going from store to store, they're looking in the window. They're not really looking at the sandwich boards. So I don't know. Let me finish, Lori. So I don't know, how much that really adds, to someone's bottom line. Okay. As far as the size that you're proposing, the sandwich boards that have been in use, I don't know, they're like maybe 2.5 feet wide, maybe they're not even 3 feet high, I don't think. I don't understand why that is not good enough as far as the size goes. To make something that is 4 feet high and 3 feet wide, I don't think is going to make, certainly from a visual point of view, it makes a big difference negatively in my mind. But it just seems over the top to allow or propose something that big that each business is going to want it to. Once you set that limit, they're going to take full advantage of being that size. And now all you're going to see is the character of Woodstock, to me, shouldn't be something that is allowing sign after sign after sign. I just think that it's way over the top. So, I can understand, like now you're saying about the safety on the sidewalk and a little off. So that means, and can I just get a little clarification, Laura, where you wrote, it says prohibit on sidewalks everywhere, including Tinker Street, Mill Hill, and Rock City.
There's a strike through there. You can't see the strike through. So the strike through, prohibit, So the strike through, this green stuff all has a strike through.
Oh, okay. All right. So then I'm asking, but then it says prohibit on Tinker Street, Mill Hill, and Rock City Road sidewalks. So
Right.
Are you saying that was part of the moratorium? Are you saying that you want to prohibit in the new law that you are trying to propose? Are you saying that you're proposing no sandwich boards on sidewalks, period, on Tinker, Mill Hill, and Rock City? Is that what it says now?
Okay. So what I'm clarifying is we're switching over. The last time we met, we were saying, let's do a moratorium. Let's say what the moratorium ought to be. But there's really not going to be a moratorium because that's a whole town law. Let's just make this law right. So now I'm saying to this group, let's make this match what we think the law ought to be, because we're not going for this interim step of moratorium. So we need as a group to go through every word here and say, hey, how does that match what the law ought to be? So we're switching over to from this paragraph being a moratorium to being actually what we think the law ought to be.
Right, I get that. So I get what you were saying there, but I just want to make sure I am understanding that you're proposing no sandwich boards on Tinker, Mill Hill, and Rock City Road on the sidewalks.
Well, what I'm saying is I'm not quite sure what we're proposing, because I want to ask the group whether that's what they want. That's where we were when we were saying, hey, this is the moratorium. That's where we were. But I need to ask the group. And Iris, you haven't been on too many meetings where I've led the meeting, but I try to do a consensus and I try to make sure I know what everybody's thinking. And things are living documents. Just because we think something was right a month ago, the world changes every day. So, if something needs to be changed because the world has changed, or even our thoughts just may change, let's do it. So this is not a locked in set of words. Okay. By the end of this meeting, I'm hoping to make it a set of words that we all are comfortable with, but we're still talking about sandwich board signs. And now that we're saying, what should the law look like? That's what we're doing with this set of words here. And we're not finished as a discussion as a committee.
Right. Okay. All right. So just, I think the less signs, the better.
Yeah.
And the size, I think, is way over the top. If you can't get somebody in with the size that it's been, then I don't think a bigger size is going to make any difference, other than it's not going to look aesthetically great. Because you're going to have this business, that business, they're all going to do it. Once you set that limit, everyone's going to take advantage of it. And
Well, people, a lot of businesses do already have signs. So,
no,
and I,
but
and-
there's not this size. The sandwich signs that have been out historically, and some are still in town because they didn't, they're still there, a few. They're the regular kind, that come in it's some sort of standard size. You know the size, you've seen it. And it's much less than the 36 by 48. And I don't think making it any bigger is appropriate. So
yeah, but understand too, 10 square feet is the maximum. So we're saying, if you make it 48, you can't make it 36 because you're going to go over the 10 square feet. So nobody's going to have a 48 by 36 inch sign because that's greater than 10 square feet. It's just, if your sign happens to be 48 inches, we'll let you do it as long as it's not too wide and it still fits in the 10 square feet. If your width is 36 inches, you could go up as high. And people, I mean,
36, that's 3 by 4. You're right, it's 2 feet over. It's
2 feet over. So it's always going to have 3 by 4 because it's 2 feet over the 10 square feet. And some people, and I wouldn't guarantee, and Laura, I'm promising to get you a sec. I wouldn't guarantee that everybody's sign already is a certain standard size, because we've had people on this call for this meeting previously who said, well, my sign's 42 inches or my sign is this. So we were trying to make it so that if somebody actually already has a sign, they don't have to throw it out. But I understand your concern, but and they, well, 10 square feet is the sign. Yeah, that's what we've had.
It's big.
It is big. Okay. Anyway, but Laurie, why don't you go and then we'll kind of get back to that.
Thank you. So Laura, I appreciate your clarification for the public, and you're going through the notes as a refresher and for the public. And I also know that this will happen in a public meeting at the town board several times, I am sure. I respect people's views. I think it's very important that we do not create any kind of safety hazard. And I also, want to make sure that in this short amount of time that we have left, that the committee actually gets to do its work on this meeting. I'm going to have to leave at about 11:20.
Okay.
One thing I did want to say is that I think we might consider as a committee, as committee members who are willing to do this, and I will say that I am, going to businesses up and down Tinker Street or Mill Hill Road, or Rock City Road, wherever, and speaking with business owners. So we're talking with them directly. I think it might actually be a good idea to go out on a weekend and just take an informal sampling. This is not a scientific study, an informal sampling of passersby, whether they live in town or whether they are visitors. Because one thing that I do not think is productive is for us to start, committee members or observers, to start throwing around words like everyone always, people will never, this won't, nobody will, because those are all vast assumptions. So I think we need to get some more specific information before we start tossing around assumptions about people that are not us. So I would like to propose that.
Cool. So do you think that we should do that before we even try to say, for example, for our sandwich boards, what should it be? Do you think that we should be?
No, I don't. And I'm pardon my interruption. I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think that we can refine this. I think your points about measurements are very good. Obviously 48 by 36 sounds too big. It is too big. By law, it's too big. That's 12 square feet, not 10. So that was something for us all to keep our math in mind. But I do think that we can do the work and concurrently, while it is still high season, talk to the business owners. I appreciate that James has gone to the chamber. I realize not every business is a member of the chamber. I know there's a new Woodstock Rotary starting up that may or may not be involved with these types of things. I do not know. But I think I am happy to walk up and down Tinker Street and introduce myself and actually have individual conversations with people and not make assumptions. And I
Okay.
think we can do that, as I said, concurrently. I don't think we need to put anything, think we need to put the process on pause or the conversations that we are attempting to have on pause.
Okay, well, I would love to do that with you, actually. Laurie,
Great.
if you would like to, you and I could do that together.
I'm
perhaps.
totally in.
Okay, excellent. All right, and Laura. Okay. Now, another thing a question for James is, would you know when because you're a member of the chamber, right, James?
Yes.
When does the chamber meet? Because I'd actually like to go to a chamber meeting, because I think it makes sense that we talk about, we should engage the chamber in this totally. And would I be able to go to a chamber meeting? Would who runs them? Can I get on the agenda just to say?
I think the thing to do is to overall in the summer we pretty much pull back from hardly
Okay.
having any meetings because we have to run our businesses. And,
Sure.
and we kind of just say, hey, see you in the fall, pretty much.
Okay.
So I'll definitely pull you in when we get something set up for September, Laura.
Okay.
The other thing I just wanted to say was to Laura's other point, the other Laura.
Laura, yeah, Laurie. She's a Laurie. We got Laurie and a Laura.
Yeah, Laurie and Laura. Yes,
Laurie.
that's how you do it. Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to say I think that's a wonderful idea. I actually think a weekday would be a better idea. And the reason I think a weekday is a better idea is, especially if you do it during the summer, most businesses are open on weekdays in the summer. So you would be able to access the businesses. But also on weekends, I sort of know, at least in my store, and also as being on the board of the Chamber of Commerce and trying to approach business owners on weekends, you get kind of a hand in your face saying, oh, please, I can't talk to you right now. And so a weekday would be great for that. And also just because I think you'd get a little bit more of a sense. I mean, it'd still be summer where we're still decently busy in the summer, but you'd sort of see a little bit more where the sidewalks look a lot different on a Wednesday than they do on a Saturday. And and in terms of like, oh, if there was, a few sandwich boards out saying we're open, would that really be, terrible? And I also just want to say I appreciate Laurie's point on, that we can't do assumptions on things. And that includes also like why a business closed and all that. We have no idea why they closed. That's their own personal
Exactly.
business.
Thank you,
And
James.
so I just want to like keep the conversation out of those weeds. And that's it.
Okay, so Laura, you and I will offline pick a date that we'll do that. And I wouldn't mind walking twice. I wouldn't mind just walking up and down the street on a weekend and just
and
say.
I'd be happy to join you too if I am available at that time. So just keep
sure.
me,
Oh, excellent. So on, and I'll assume on a weekend you're busy, because but I mean, I think it wouldn't hurt, Laurie, that you and I could just walk on a weekend just to do the walk, and then the weekday, when the businesses are a little less busy, then we can stop in and talk with business owners. We might just do a walk and just kind of get a feel for the flow on a weekend, and then go into a weekday. So okay. So that's an excellent idea.
My schedule is flexible. I'm happy to make myself available, and I agree twice would be good.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll make sure we let James know so that James has the option to join us. Okay. So all that being said, including Laurie's hard stop end time of 20 after. So based on so our goal, what we're doing right now is we're looking through all of these words, and we're saying, since we're not doing a moratorium, we're focused now on what should our long-term law say. And it's everything that's in bold blue or bold, anything bold here is what it is. So we're not doing the moratorium. Okay, so not doing the moratorium. So, and James, you would weigh in on this to say prohibit on Tinker Street, Mill Hill Road and Rock City Roads, but it's actually, we're just prohibiting on the sidewalk. We're still saying, what are we saying on Tinker Street, Mill Hill, and Rock City? Are we saying we would allow on those roads, on the lawns, courtyards, stoops, and parking lots? I think we're saying we would allow on these roads,
Yeah.
just not,
Yeah, I think so.
can't be on the sidewalk.
On one
Okay.
side.
Okay, so I'm going to,
You could say sidewalks under 48 inches. If you try-
okay, okay.
Because
So
you,
let me, okay, on sidewalks. And I'll fix this in. I'm sorry, whatever was said, I couldn't hear. I'm not sure if you were talking to us or not. Whoops, got to get this out of here.
Came out a while ago. Sorry.
Okay, that's right. All right. So we want to prohibit. So we want to prohibit on sidewalks under 48 inches everywhere. So is that correct? You want to prohibit?
On off season, I still have a little bit of a issue. I'd like to explore whether that could be allowed off season.
On a sidewalk under 48 inches.
Like maybe
Okay.
after you sort of talk to businesses and take your sort of walk through town and get some sense of, how often certain businesses are open, like how they, in the off season on weekdays. I'm really talking like weekdays, non-holiday weekdays. And, which is a little more specific to sort of try to earmark when, this wouldn't be that big of a problem for people.
Well, since safety is always a priority, given that safety is always a priority, is there safety to having, can you be safe and have a sandwich board on a sidewalk that's under 48 inches? Because if you do, people have to step in the street to get around it. So I guess since safety is continuing to be our priority. Yeah, so James, are you still? Sorry, and you're on mute, James, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought we were going to be done by 11 and I'm sort of, my store's opening. So I'm just.
Your store's opening. I got you.
37.75.
So, okay. Yeah, and my apologies for losing 15 minutes. Well, what we ought to do, let me do this, because if we lose people.
They load them for me. Thank you.
When should our next meeting be? Can we meet in a week, for example? Because I know, and I know different days of the week are not good for different people, but can we meet in a week, for example, 10 o'clock a week from today?
I could.
I can.
Hold on, let me just
Okay.
double check. Hold on one thing. Hold on.
Okay.
and Laura, I don't know if it would be too many people in this walking around, but I would be interested in that as well.
Oh, I'm happy to have everybody that wants to walk around. So now the one thing I do want to ask real quick is, so Rob, I do have your phone number and that's good. And Laurie, I have your phone number, and James, I have your phone number. Okay, so
It would be easier for me to do it in 2 weeks, but if it is next week, I'd probably have to do it from a car. So I could, I guess, hope my reception's decent enough.
It could be a different day.
Yeah, next Tuesday, I'm sort of, next week I'm sort of Monday through Thursday are rough for me.
Okay, all right. So I'm okay having it be 2 weeks away. Do people want 2 weeks? Which
Yeah,
would
That
be
would
the
give you a good
22nd.
week to figure out the walk and all that.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
Okay, so our next meeting is August 22nd at 10 o'clock.
Got it.
Well,
Got
the
it.
other
Thank
thing
you.
is, since
Also, Laura, is it possible to meet at 9 o'clock, especially if James's business is opening at 11? That way there's more flexibility.
oh, that's a nice idea.
I can do 9.
Yeah, I could do
Okay, so
that.
that's Tuesday, the 22nd, 9 o'clock. Okay,
great.
all right. If everybody can do 9 o'clock, then that's good. And let me just, yeah, and I'll let you know if I have a problem, but I should be good. So the other question I'll ask is, since we've kind of taken a new direction here, that now we know that we're taking sandwich boards and we're making it what we think the law ought to be, and it is 11 o'clock, even though I missed the first 15 minutes. As I was getting the password, would we rather just stop here and I resend this and say, hey, let's all think about what we want the answers to be? Do we want to try to spend the next 15 minutes going through this, or would you rather we just say, hey, we're regrouping, let's stop here, we're going to do the walks, and we're going to focus on this as a law in 2 weeks?
I'd be in favor of regrouping, frankly, and doing the walks. And then this way, when we come back in 2 weeks, perhaps we can actually have some additional concrete information to present.
Yeah, okay. So what I'm gonna do, my other calendar, because we can pick our dates and times for the walks perhaps now. So for example, and of course that's kind of weather dependent. If we're having a downpour, we're not going to want to do it. For a weekend walk this weekend, I'm actually totally free on Saturday, and then Sunday I'm only available in the afternoon. But Saturday, I know, James, I'm figuring you're probably going to be busy with your business,
Yeah.
but Rob and Laurie would
With good weather, especially real estate, makes my weekends pretty busy,
okay.
but my weekdays are very flexible.
Okay, so we'll just focus right on the weekday then. I'm totally good with that. So,
You might consider Fridays too. They're kind of just as busy as weekends
oh, cool.
That's a good point.
Cool.
in the
Okay.
summer, at least.
So I'm doing
Extended
that.
weekends, James.
Yes.
Oh, goodness.
You know, I mean, I'm pretty flexible every day next week, just throwing that out there, especially looking at, I'm talking about every weekday.
Okay, so Friday the 18th, if we focus on Friday, I'm totally free on Friday. So if we want to pick a time on Friday, I don't really want to pick like an afternoon time because that's probably busier, like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock.
Yeah,
Does that
I wouldn't
make
start
sense?
before noon.
Well,
I was going to say,
anytime-
let's start at least wait until noon, I would imagine.
Sure. So I'm available anytime on Friday the 18th. So whatever time people think.
Or if you pick a time, I would just try to make it. I have some people who should be leaving by then, but and
Well,
I'm
is
also,
Is 3
Should we say,
o'clock?
how about,
Is 3 o'clock better? So is Rob, is later better for you? Like 3 o'clock would, you know?
probably. It's
So
also
you-
possible I'll be up in Albany all that week, so I'm not sure. But
So what do you think, Laurie?
I'm available at 3. I'm available earlier. I wouldn't start any later than 3.
Right, I agree. So you want to shoot for 2?
Sounds good by me.
Yeah,
Okay.
do 2. I could possibly even join part of it. So just keep me on the email with it, and that sounds good.
Okay, so walkabout is going to be 8/18/23 at oh, you know what? I'm in the next week. It could be this week, actually. I don't know how I got to next week. I'm actually, we could do our walkabout this Friday as well. So
I could do that.
yeah, I'm here this week.
okay. So walkabout 8/11 Friday, 8/11 at 2 o'clock. And where should we meet? Where should we start? I mean, you know, should we start at like CVS and just walk all the way to the other end? Or should we?
Yeah. Let's start at CVS.
Okay. And of course they don't want us parking in their parking lot. But in any event, so, but we'll plan to start at the CVS end of town. And
Well, are you planning on talking to the sunflower folk or not necessarily? Big business, big sign, not really relevant.
well, so here's a question. I mean, being a Friday, I know, James, what you had said was on the weekend, people are super busy. They won't have time to talk with us. As we walk up and down, are we planning to drop into different businesses and say, like, what are we going to ask specific questions like, do you need a sidewalk sign? Do you want a sidewalk sign? I mean, what conversations will we have with business owners?
Well, I can volunteer to draft some simple questions and then run it by, then just copy everybody on that. I think we're just basically asking about, um, their experience, if they notice, if they find them helpful, if they find them non-helpful, what difference they may notice. I'm what do you call it? I'm spitballing right now, but I'm happy to write up,
Yeah, Lori, there's a few things.
four to six questions.
Yeah, there's a few things that relate to the old law that we haven't even brought up. And I know certain people are totally against them, but I find neon signs actually done well are creative. So, in terms of the art side of having signage. So we could be asking people whether they approve of them or they disapprove of them. We could probably come up with too many questions.
And
Right.
well, I'll interject my personal opinion. In my opinion, I would worry about neon signs. I would worry about, I would worry because Woodstock is not a neon. We're not in my opinion, we're not a neon town.
There are a couple
well-
of them out there, Laura, that, seem to be getting by.
There are a couple what?
I
Go ahead, Lori.
was just going to say, why don't I'll volunteer to draw up a draft. Maybe it could simply be, what types of signs do you feel are most effective for your business?
Oh, cool. But that's an excellent question. But because then we're not feeding them any answers. I love that as a question. What types of signs? And that's kind of like the only question we need to ask, probably, right?
I can think of a couple of others. Like I said, I don't want to just spitball, but I can email them round for input.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
do that, because there's other questions if we do actually get some business owners in front of us to sort of say, like, are you generally open every day during the week? Are there times a year that, you find something different is helpful or not? I think.
Right, because James, you want to focus on the off season.
Well, I just want to hear from, businesses where they can also say, have you noticed there's been a change in the past few years with the amount of business in town that, you may not need a sign. I don't know. It's just, I'd be curious to kind of hear what their needs are. I mean, like I say, weekends, and especially in the summer, every day almost in the summer, I feel like if people are on Tinker Street, they're on Tinker Street, and they're gonna, walk by every store and look in the windows and figure out what they want to do. And that's the rest of the year, that's different. And
Yeah.
and COVID threw everything for a loop. So it's like for the past
Right.
few years, it's been hard to really make a judgment like what business is like in town. I feel like right up to COVID, there was like a really good, like, oh, we seem to be doing better during the off season, and then all of a sudden COVID hit. And so now we're trying to have a normal year again. And maybe this year will be a little normal and we can kind of judge it better. So
So a question that I have, I don't know offhand how many businesses are in town. Do we have 40 businesses in town? I don't know if that's a good number or not a good number. How are we going to decide which business owners we're going to talk to?
Well,
I guess who's ever
well, I
around.
think
Or, we could leave,
yeah, I mean,
you could leave a questionnaire. You could,
mhm.
like, if Lori and I and you and we all come up with half a dozen questions, nothing extensive, and we just leave it and with an email address on it as well, and just say, hey, we're happy to chat with you right now, but also we can just leave this for the owner. And and it doesn't even have to be every business. I could, if I'm with you, which I might be, I could kind of like steer you to which ones I think actually do have some signage issues or not, or which ones never put out a sign, and then we don't have to really bother. But I don't know, we could try to do it that way.
That's a great idea.
Cool.
Laura,
Yes.
I want to ask the committee something which has been on my mind. I did discuss it with Lori Osmond a little bit. It's not specifically related to the sign committee, although I actually think it is. It's related to the map of streets and businesses that you said in your notes is not part of the signs charge, sign committee's charge. But I have been thinking about this idea from a organizational and from expressing who is where in the town, and the lack of equality based on your location. And I've been looking at the way businesses are setting up QR codes so that all of our all of our visitors in town, they're all carrying cell phones. They're all on them constantly.
Sure.
You go around any large business and you walk into the front of the establishment and they may have scan this so you can see where all of our stuff is.
Mhm.
So my idea is that why can't the town of Woodstock, and I don't know what under what auspices, whether it would be through the business community or through the town's own website, why can't we have everybody with a legitimate business in town listed so that somebody could scan the QR code, and it could be by alphabetical, it could be by type of business, it could be a variety of different ways. There could be a map that they could be looking at on their phone, so that they actually walk all the way out and they actually go to the Gilded Carriage because all the people stop at the hardware store. You
So
know,
you're saying like the QR code, if I scan this QR code, you're saying what I would see then is a map, I would get a map, so I would know that.
I'm
Gilded
saying
Carriage is-
I'm not a tech person. I can't design this. I have a niece that I discussed it with who works for Adobe. She thought it was a good idea, but she mentioned Squarespace as a way to build websites, yada yada. But what I'm saying is, it could encompass many things, and it could alert people to all the different businesses that exist, and they could be done by category or it could be done by alphabetical. And it could help businesses that are upstairs and downstairs and whatever, or off the beaten track. You know, somebody can see, oh, there's all these clothing stores here. Oh, there's 3 hardware stores. Oh no, there's only 2. You know, I'm saying most of our business, and James, forgive me, I'm not running a business like you are, but you know, I tend to avoid town during the summers on the weekends because it's so busy and there are so many tourists. But that's what's driving the town. And I'm saying, why not come up with a way for them to access information that is relevant to the way they are running their lives? And it means you could have a few QR codes around the town that are, say, scan me and et cetera, and you're not making ugly that way, but you're working with the current world and the way it functions.
So I, first of all, I love the idea. I love the idea, and I think it's great to, bring Woodstock to the current technology to be able, because the whole goal here is we do want to help the shop owners.
That's what
so-
I'm thinking. Yeah.
Right. So what, but the other part of my answer is, my understanding of our mission is we want to update the sign law. The sign committee is to update the sign law. However, as a follow-on focus, and as people know, if you work with me for any length of time, you hear me say I'm a professional project manager, and I am, and I have been. I was certified back in 1998, so I've been doing it for a long time. But my point being that as a professional project manager, I can tell you that if you get spread too thin, you don't get anything done. You need to focus, and I would see this as a follow-on. So
No, I agree, Laura. I just wanted to bring it up because I feel like one of the questions, if you came up with 6, which is, to help businesses explain what would work for them, is to possibly put that as a question as we're going around to businesses to see if there's a way to make it happen. I don't know what the cost would be to build the website. I don't know if it could be tagged on to the town website or to, Chamber of Commerce or what have you, but I'm just saying it was something that occurred to me and I wanted to at least mention it to the sign committee.
well, let me just ask, I mean, given again, in some teams I'm on, they call this a rabbit hole, right? We start going down a rabbit hole and we can't solve our mission.
You don't
because
have
we get on
to, you can let it go. I just wanted to get it out there and see what people's thoughts are.
Well, and I guess my thought is, I certainly love the idea, and I think that Woodstock could really use that, and I'm certainly willing to work on that because I think it's a great idea. I do worry if we divert ourselves, if we ask too many, if this questionnaire that Lori's volunteered to draft up for us, if the questionnaire focuses on how do we get a map and how can we have a QR code and how can we have a website that tells everybody what they want to know, we're gonna take our eye, we're gonna take our eye off the ball of getting the sign law updated. So our primary mission, I see as this committee, is get the sign law right. And that alone is a sizable mission, because we're only on step one. We have like, 8 steps here, and we're only on step one. And of step one, we're only on topic one. So we have a lot of work to do with that. So I love your idea. Anyway, Lori, I'll let you think through whether you think it belongs on the questionnaire, because you're drafting it up. But my worry is, if we get people going in that direction, then we're not going to, it'll take their focus on helping us with the sign law per se. And we need their help to close up the sign law, and it may get in the way of this objective. Sometimes when you want to do 2 things, if you work on both of them, you never get to either of them. If we do them one at a time, I believe we can get both of them done. So I'm just not sure if the timing is right to bring up. I think your idea, I love your idea. I'm just not sure if the time is now. But Laura, I'll let you see what you think about, because you offered to draft up a questionnaire. So, but Rob,
Okay.
I definitely think it's good for the future. Any other thoughts?
I just want to, if I may.
Yes, totally. Yes.
Yeah, no, one of the things that when I was presenting to the town board, those whatever weeks ago, one of the questions that I asked, which I see now Lori has brought up, was, have you gone to the businesses? Have you asked them the questions? Have you done a survey with the people on the street? And so I'm glad that you're kind of picking up on that. But one of the things that I think you're not going to get, because the sandwich boards are not out anymore, proliferating, was, do you think that the sandwich boards, are you looking at them as in deciding if you're going in? So that part of what I was talking about at the town board meeting, you won't be able to get that answer because they're not out there.
Unless they remember what
Well,
was going, unless they have some historical anecdotes, which many business owners may, but we'll obviously have these conversations and find that out.
Right,
Well, I'm not
and we're
talking about
asking-
the businesses. I'm talking about the people, passerbyers. So you
Well,
will-
right, and most of them hopefully aren't visiting for the first time. We will try to tease out all of those questions.
Yeah, so glad. And then Laura, you were at that meeting, right? When I spoke?
I believe I was, yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, thanks. Okay.
Okay. And Rob, I think you had something to interject.
No, it's all right. I was just gonna say that, we should be asking the businesses whether they felt like the sandwich boards were helping them or not.
Yeah. So, okay.
Something-
And John, I see you come off mute. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yes, thank you. You said, Laura, earlier at the beginning of the meeting, you said the current law isn't serving everybody. And I just want to make the observation that the current law has been put off in your committee. The review of the current law, the line by line review that you talk about,
Right.
is being put off. So it seems backwards, and I would urge the committee to do that line by line review so that everyone understands the law that we're currently working with, and then substantiate that statement that the current law isn't serving everybody. I'll note that the discussion has been over 90% on movable signs. That's what
Yes.
the law categorizes the sandwich boards as. They're categorized as movable signs, and they're prohibited under the current law. And that has been your whole discussion. That's my observation. Thank you.
And to Laura's point, we do have many stages of things to go through, and we're just beginning our work. So I appreciate that, and I think we'll all keep all of the aspects of the sign law in mind.
Yeah, and I think and John, you are right that we have been focusing primarily so far on the sandwich boards. The reason being that seems to be the biggest issue that people are having. So that's kind of where we're starting there, is because that's kind of the issue. Some people say don't have any, they're horrible. Some people say I gotta have them because my business is suffering without it. And that so that is the issue that people are tripping over the most. And I do, I think what I will do is I'll remind everybody, the reason why I think that we should make our decisions of what we ought to have the law say is when we do the line by line review, then we know what needs to be updated. I'll ask everybody and remind everybody that they should all, it's only an 8-page law, that everybody should be reading the law offline. So everybody should familiarize themselves with it, because you're right that for us to know what's not working, it's good for people to know the law. So I think, I do think it's the right thing for us to be discussing what the law ought to say. And everybody should familiarize themselves with the law. The line by line review would be then to say, well, based on what it ought to say, what does it say? That's when the line by line review where this committee would take time talking about it. That's why I have that there in the order. But I can add there, read the law is something everybody should be doing right away. And I'll add that in the steps. I'll put that towards the beginning. Law step. Yeah, okay. But thank you. Thank you, John, for sharing. I know we've run past the 11:20. I know Laurie said she's got to go. Anything else we should be talking about on this call? Okay, so we have a date for our next meeting. We have a date for our walkthrough. I know Laurie's going to draft some stuff for us. And I think we're good. I'll stop sharing. Thank you, everybody, for joining, and we'll be seeing you soon. Bye for now.
Thank you all.
Bye.
So Laura, are you going to put me on your email list?
Yes, I will add you to my email list.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. I'm just coming back the night before from vacation, so I'm not sure if I can get my act together to be there at the next meeting, but I'll try.
Oh, okay. Well, let me stop the recording. Hang on a second, because I'll ask you where your vacation is. I don't want to ask you and be recorded because it's private information. Where the heck is stop recording?
It still says recording up in the corner.
It is. Oh, there we go. Stop. There we go.